guys, it's time for another Comics Weekly wrap-up where I share with you the trades/graphic novels that I've read for the week. I will admit that this week is going to be a lot of independents. I'm going to say that they're mostly independents. Some of them are Vertigos, which are really DC. So, I mean, it's kind of like DC and some independents, because well, you'll see it anyways. But one of the things I've noticed, I have to be one of the few people who makes videos about books who actually does like weekly wrap-ups like on a consistent basis. Because I notice when you look at like the sidebar and recommended videos, they're all my videos for like weekly wrap-ups. I know there are a few people who do them once in a great while, but I'm really consistent with it. And I'm also one of the few people who reviews books who's actually doing like these types of books. So I just don't understand why I don't have more subscribers. But anyways, let's get on with the weekly wrap-up. First up, I read Wonder Woman Bones. This is volume 6. And I have to say that the first 5 volumes of this, I really, really did not care for them. I'm just being right up front with you guys. I really didn't care for the first 5 volumes of Wonder Woman. I thought they were just okay. And I love the New 52s, but this volume, volume 6... I really liked this. This story was great. Not only that, but the artwork was amazing. And to have a story that is great with great artwork is a rare find indeed. This is where things are really starting to pick up. I don't want to get too much into the story because I really don't want to spoil it for people who may not have read any Wonder Woman yet. Well, anyways, most of it takes place on Paradise Island, where Wonder Woman is from, and it's conflict with the gods. And Zeus has his firstborn son, who is like unnamed. He doesn't have a name, and he's on a mission. Like the last few volumes of Wonder Woman, he's on a mission to try to take the throne and kill all the people he thinks that are like trying to take the throne from him. So, of course, and there's this little baby, his name is Zeke, and his mother's name is Zola. She's one of Wonder Woman's friends, and Wonder Woman's job is to try to protect them because I guess the little baby's supposed to be the future god of Olympus or something. So, yeah, it kind of makes for a really interesting story, and of course it has one of the new gods, Orion, is featured in this book. But I really enjoyed this. I really thought it was interesting, and it really this book summed up all the other weaker books that led up to this one. And I rated this 4 out of 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. And if you have not checked out Wonder Woman New 52 yet, definitely check that out because I think it's worth reading. After that, I picked up Superman Under Fire, and I think this is volume 5. And I have to admit, I've read a few Supermans, not too many of the New 52, but this one was just, I don't know. This one has, I have to say, it has a horrible rating on Goodreads. And after having read this, I kind of know why, because this volume, there's no unity in it. The stories are all over the place. Like, one of them is a continuation from the Hell story, and another one has to do with, Krypton and saving Krypton, and then there's the Apocalypse story, and it's so all over the place, and there's like holes that it's not like no continuation, like it doesn't like lead into one to another. And I think that's why I only rated this 3 out of 5 stars. I did enjoy it, but it could have been much better, and I think that's why everybody else hated this. I think that this book is something you have to read the other Superman books to really fill in the gaps. And honestly, DC, you shouldn't do that. You should make your continuity like, it should be unified in one volume, one book, at least. Don't make it so you have to buy all of the Superman titles to understand what's going on. That's why I didn't like that one. After that, I picked up Day Tripper by Fabio Moon and Gabriel Ba. These guys are twin brothers from Brazil. I know that there is a lot of people like from Brazil and Latin America that are comic books artists and writers and everything. It seems to be the new influx thing. And these guys have been writing comics for a long time, but this is one of their ones from Vertigo. This was recommended to me by Goodreads. That's how I came across this book. What it mainly is about is a lot of people are saying that it focuses on death. And it's not really focusing on death so much. It is focusing on life, if that makes any sense. What it is there's the main character in these stories, and he is a writer. He writes obituaries. Sometimes he writes fiction or nonfiction or whatever. He writes novels too. His father was a writer. And each chapter is a different period of his life. But one of the things that was really confusing to me, and look, the beautiful watercolors. The artwork is nice. I mean, it's nice to look at. And the story is kind of interesting. I found it really interesting to see a look at everyday Brazilian life, because I've never been to Brazil and it's a whole different culture. So if you're wanting to learn about diversity and maybe another culture, definitely check out Day Tripper for that reason, because it's kind of cool to see a different culture. One that, being an American, we're not used to seeing stuff like this. But one of the confusing things was that every chapter this guy seems to die. But I don't know if it's like a metaphoric death or what, because it's supposed to be magical realism is what this book is classified as. And he really dies at the very end of the book. But I don't know, and like maybe all his imaginary deaths or what they were like, something he imagined he could have died like somehow. I don't really understand it, but I only rated this one 3 out of 5 stars. I know that there are a lot of people who absolutely love this book, but I just found it a little confusing because of every chapter there was a death, and it was his death, so I didn't, I'll admit I didn't get that. But yeah, this is worth checking out. Next up we have Details by Fabio Moon and Gabriel Ba. This one is by the same two guys who did the last book I showed you guys, but this one is a dark horse this time around. And this one is a much smaller, but this one is kind of, a lot of it's told through pictures versus words, but it's all in black and white. And this one is more culture of Brazil. But I really enjoyed this one more so than the Day Tripper one, because the stories seem to be a little more interesting. There were a few that were just kind of romance type stories. Like one of them was this guy meets a girl on the street, and the first thing she says to him is, "You've already missed your chance to fall in love with me," and then he hangs out with her all day. And they kind of click, and then towards the end of the day, she's like, "Oh, I gotta go," and then he's like, "But wait, I don't know your name," and then she says the same thing that she said at the beginning when she met him, that, he already missed his chance. So I thought it was kind of a neat little story. And then there's another one, like, with time travel and this guy, like, having a conversation with himself. I thought that was kind of interesting. So I rated this one 4 out of 5 stars. I thought this one was much better than the Day Tripper one. It is definitely a book to check out. After that, I picked up Smoke and Guns. Now this one is written by Kristen Baldock, but it's drawn by Fabio Moon. And this one takes place in like the future, and like cigarettes are illegal. So it's kind of like they're like drugs. You have to have a special license to sell cigarettes, and the cigarette girls are the ones who have the licenses to sell the cigarettes, and they're like gangsters because they have guns too when they do hits and stuff like that. So I thought it was kind of interesting. This is another one that's all in black and white. Very minimal dialogue, and I've never heard of the company that produced this book. It's called Eight Planet Lar, which I don't know if this is a Brazilian company or what it is, but I don't know. It's an independent that I've never heard of. This one was just okay. I only rated it 3 out of 5 stars. So yeah. Hey guys, so I wanted to say before I showed you the next book that I really don't understand why Ghost World was so trendy and why it has such a high rating on Goodreads. I saw the film. I thought the film was okay. No, I'll admit it was kind of bad. It was kind of boring. And the book was just the same. It was just so extremely boring that I rated it 1 out of 4 stars, or 1 out of 5 stars, I should say. But I decided to give that writer another chance, and I picked up Like a Velvet Glove Cast in Iron. This is an independent, and this is based on a comic book series that he had done called 8 Ball. And if you're not familiar with an 8 Ball is, it's like either crack or cocaine or like meth or whatever, and they smoke like an eighth of it, and that's called an 8 Ball or whatever. I don't have any like personal experience with this, so I don't know if they hallucinate or what when they smoke it, but it makes me wonder if the guy is a crackhead, because this story is just so bizarre. It starts out with him going to an adult movie theater where he's watching, pornos, and then next thing you know, there's a snuff film comes up, and then he's like intrigued by this snuff film, and he wants to find out more about the movie, so he goes on this random journey to try to find out more about this movie. He runs into this like Manson-like cult. He runs into this potato head looking girl who's like a mutant, and she looks like a potato head, and there's like dogs with no orifices. It's just so bizarre and so stupid. And I'll admit, I love like bizarre, weird books, but this was just too much. This was just, it had no point. And like, even if you get to the end, you're like thinking, oh yeah, it's gonna make sense at some point when you get to the end. No, this book never made any sense. It's just really strange. And really, guys, don't waste your time. And I don't understand why this book has like a 4-star rating on Goodreads either. But I rated it 1 out of 5 stars. It's garbage as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so I started this weekly wrap-up with a superhero book, and I'm ending it with a superhero book. And that is Captain America, the Tomorrow Soldier. I think this is volume 5, if I'm not mistaken. And it is called The Tomorrow Soldier because this is the debut of the replacement Captain America. And this book kind of answered my questions as to why in that one storyline of the Avengers, I'm trying to think of the name of that one, but it's the one that leads into the Secret Wars. I was wondering why Captain America looked so old. They kind of touch briefly on that in this book, that has lost his super soldier form. It's been sucked out of him or something, so now he's like an 80-year-old man or whatnot. Well, anyways, Arnim Zola is back, and he's got some mutates from Dimension Z, so I thought that was kind of cool, and there's a surprise, like, guest star, somebody from that Dimension Z storyline comes. And I thought a lot of people, when I looked at the ratings on Goodreads, either they loved this book or they hated it. And I was one of the people that loved it. Of course, Rick Remender wrote it. And I like Rick Remender's work, but other people hated it. And I really don't know. I didn't read the reasons for why some people hated this. I think a lot of people didn't like it because the cheesy party like dialogue that was at the end when they were gonna announce the new Captain America. There was a lot of like stupid dialogue centered around food, and I'll admit that was very lame. they probably shouldn't have included that in this story. But it was like the only part of the story that was really lame. So, like, I didn't want to base the whole rating for this book just on that, because I didn't think that was fair. But I did rate this 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was cool that, you know, their Cap is passing off the mantle and the costume and everything it stood for to someone else. And someone who was well deserving of it. So, I thought it was pretty cool. And then the very end had, of course, they had some covers and an alternate story and all of that. And so yeah, I mean, if you want to hear about the new Captain America, and I guess this leads into another storyline called Axis, which I've yet to read. I don't know if I'm going to get to read that, but I think that's some event that happens before the Secret Wars. So if you have any intentions of reading any of these books, or if you have read any of them, let me know what you thought of them down below. And thanks for watching, guys.